Alrighty, welcome back guys to another video. This one's going to be for HELLDIVERS 2, and I have 4 of one of my favorite type of support weapons that kind of show off some of the early weapons that you'll be getting in HELLDIVERS 2, and try to give people an idea on how much firepower this game just hands you. So right off the rip, we're going to go ahead and start off with something light, and this is going to be the anti-material rifle. It is second support weapon that you'll be able to get in the game when outside of starting with a standard machine gun, and it's pretty dang straightforward. So it's actually really dang cool. It is a anti-material rifle that has explosive rounds to it. The one weird feature to this gun is that when you aim, there's not going to be any kind of crosshair. You have to be scoped in by pressing at least R3 on the controller. I don't know what that will be. Probably right click in order just to aim again, or double click. I'm not too sure what it is on PC, but it's going to be the right stick in order to dial in on there. And going prone and laying down will also change your steadiness. It has a 200-meter scope, so if I hold down square, it'll bring down the actual scope magnification. You can go as low as 50, all the way up to 200, which is more than enough. It's semi-automatic, so you can just let it rip on how fast you want to fire it. Not too bad at all, and has 6 magazines in total. That is a 50 caliber sniper rifle, or an anti-material rifle that's even larger than 50 cal. They are able to just spam, just let it rip like that. And you would have to be laying down though, so it's normally something that you're not going to be using on bugs. So it's more so for the robots that are longer distance and are taking more like gun fights with you. This thing will actually just one-tap most of the things in the game. So there's like a bug down there. There we go. So target practice. So if you aim for the weak points, then you'll always hit them. And it does have a little bit of splash damage, so you can drop enemies pretty dang well. So those are some of the bugs. So there's another one somewhere. Oh, I thought so. You could definitely hear them somewhere out there. But anyway, so that's the light one. So that's the one I grabbed because I kind of ran out of the bigger stuff that you could be carrying around. Well, there's a few others, but they're all without a backpack slot that you needed. Again, you can aim it technically and fire it, but you're just not going to be able to see the crosshairs. With enough practice, you'll kind of just have an idea on where it is. But we're going to go with a larger one, which is, I think, the second to most damage dealing gun that we can have for a support weapon. And this is the recoilless rifle, your anti-tank solution to just about everything in the game. Even in the intro, it'll show this thing one-tapping the largest boss in the game, like Bile Titans. So I don't really have anything big to be firing at, but I can kind of give you guys a demonstration on how this thing explodes. It is essentially just a one big launcher. Now, it does fire out an explosive bullet. It's not necessarily a rocket that shoots out. So kind of interesting. And you can also hold square, and there's 2 different options that you're able to swap to. There's high explosive, or HE, high explosive AT, or anti-tank. So you want to keep it on anti-tank, which it comes by default on, and that will make it to where that when you hit something, it'll blow up in a very small radius and will kill anything in one shot. You don't need to worry about it unless it's going to be like the larger bosses like the Bile Titans or the Factory Striders for robots that would be fine against. Sometimes you'll hit them in like a weak point and they'll kind of shrug it off, but they will definitely not survive a second shot to this. But if you do hit them in a weak point, they will outright drop. There's the HE version, which is kind of the opposite. So the HEAT, or just heat, I call it, is going to be a very small blast radius and the most impact damage. So it will drop anything in one shot. HE is the opposite. So it has a little bit of a larger blast radius, but not as much impact damage. So this is more so for crowd clearing and taking out more so medium armor enemies. It's a little bit of a bigger explosion radius right there. And it takes a few seconds to go through and actually reload. Oh, here we go. Give you guys an idea on the big group that's able to drop out. So if I wanted enemies right here, I've killed 5 in one shot right there. So it's a nice little option. Most people just kind of use it for anti-tank though, but that's just a quality of life program they're able to swap it to. So it's not too bad to have. One of my favorites though is going to be the autocannon. This one is probably by far everyone's favorite. It's a jack of all trades type of weapon. It is technically the little brother to the recoilless launcher, and it is an actual autocannon. So you got the anti-material rifle. This is the anti-material rifle on steroids. Has APHET or anti-personnel, like high explosive kind of rounds here. So it's actually not too bad at all. And it's actually ordered to high explosive tank armor, so it's not too bad at all. So it has armor piercing kind of rounds going on through here, but it's not enough to be outright anti-tank. More so like the HE version of the recoilless launcher there. So it has a large punch to it, so you have a large amount of stagger. When you hit something larger, that can shrug off a few rounds of this. So it does hit like a dang truck, and it can one-shot mostly small to medium enemies, so it's not too bad at all. What's cool about it is this thing has a full auto mode. It's semi-auto. You can swap it to that, but the full auto mode, this is an actual rifle that you carry over your dang shoulder. Now, I do recommend never really firing this thing in full auto. It is an option, but you would have to be laying down where you have the most recoil mitigation, and probably run an armor set to where you can reduce your recoil by another 30% with its armor passive, or perk passive. This is how it is right now when I'm laying down, fully proned, and controlling the recoil. Now again, that little circle that kind of drifts around my actual crosshair, that's where the actual barrel is pointing. So I want to reload. You can also hold up to 10 rounds with this thing. It is kind of, in a weird way, you can make it out to be a primary weapon. So again, this is laying down. That little white circle is where the barrel is at all time. So as you can see, there's a little bit of a drift. This happens with every single weapon in the game. You can see it drift off to the left, like bounce really hard up and to the left, not really giving it time to recenter. And this is like full standing. Really bouncing off. So it has the armor piercing rounds, which you can use against enemies. Like, it works, especially against these small little guys. Called in a bug breach. There we go. So this is actually good time for target practice. So it works on there, and there's the bug breach. But then now there's also another option, which is flak. You can use this to shoot down mostly like on the bot front, or the robots or automatons. There is gunships that you can shoot down, and the flak cannon is armor penetrating, so that'll drop them out of the sky real fast. For the bugs, there's a flying version of the bug called a shrieker, and they come in huge swarms in the air there, so you're able to drop them, but also works fine against enemies on the ground. So how the flak rounds work is that it will detect an actual solid object and blow up near it. So this will be a rock. Sometimes it will be a rock and it'll like fly past and it'll detect it and then blow up behind it after it senses that, or with the ground. Enemies will also be counting as objects they'll be passing by. So this will normally be good for enemies that are having armor on the front end of them. So medium armored enemies for like bugs, or also some of the medium armor enemies when it comes to all the robots that are usually going to be taking a little bit more rounds to the front. Some of them even have shields to them that are just outright unbreakable. So this thing will just shoot around them. It'll just blow up around them and do a large amount of damage. So if the armor piercing can't hit through something, these things will just go around it and blast them. It is a jack of all trades type of weapon, and by far one of the best. And then finally, I have the Airburst rocket launcher. This is just going to be one of the first episodes for every single support weapon in Helldivers, so this is just going to be showing off every one of them. This is one of my favorites. It's not necessarily as good as the other two I just showed off, but it is definitely incredibly fun. It is supposed to be the anti-air or Airburst rocket launcher. So it's like the recoilless launcher, but instead of attacking anti-armor, this is supposed to be anti-air. which comes in flak by default, so I'm able to fire it. And that is a massive flak radius that has a lot more charges in it compared to like whatever the autocannon has. So that will absolutely take out a bunch of enemies. Now, when it comes to medium armor, this thing only has medium armor penetration, so it does not break through heavy armor. You cannot just hit something directly with heavy armor and kill them. Now, it has been buffed to where it did a little bit more damage, so even in the flak form, you're able to shoot underneath a bunch of medium enemies or a bunch of heavy armor enemies, and the flak will actually shoot up into the air and blow up and hit a bunch of weak points around them. So technically, you can kill heavy armored enemies quite effectively or quite reliably, but you just cannot hit them directly. You're just gonna have to like finesse around them, which is something. But you can also swap it over to cluster, and this was actually added in not too long ago. Let me clear these guys out. Yeah, so but you can swap it over to cluster, and this makes it to where then it has a delay when it blows up. So this one is actually a lot of fun, and I actually like it a little bit more than a flak, unless I'm trying to shoot something out of the air. This thing will just have all your bombs, instead of just blasting out and going everywhere, they'll all kind of shoot out in a big area and just kind of sit close to the ground and bomb the entire area. Similar, looking like this. So as you can see, it goes out in a way larger area and blows up after that. This makes it to where then all the rounds don't shoot out like a bunch of flak, and make it to where that team killing is as prominent. So this thing is a team killing machine. If people are too close, it just has such a good range to it altogether when it comes to the blast radius, so it is kind of hard to control. But you can also shoot it up into the air and turn it into where it's raining fire or a bunch of explosives, so it's kind of like a portable artillery strike. That will cover a large area, so on itself, technically, you can turn it to where it's its own stratagem, its own actual artillery strike, which is a lot of fun. So I use this quite often against bugs because they're always coming in large groups. This is honestly one of the best launchers to use outside of the autocannon. The anti-material rifle wouldn't really use it against bugs. It's just not really built for that. It'll be better on different factions. And yeah, so that's going to be the backpack support weapons so far that we have. And again, this is just a very small fraction of them. I think there's like 20 or so of all these kind of things. But these are all going to be, or actually no, there is one more that is using a backpack for it, and I'll go over that as well, or another two. But there's also the anti-material one, which is just some of the support weapons will have the requirement of you actually carrying a backpack when it comes to ammo, as the autocannon, the recoilless launcher, and the airburst launcher, as I just shown, will require you to do. So you can't carry extra different types of gear if you're going to be bringing the rocket launcher around. It's something like the anti-material rifle, though, you're able to bring in, and it will just not require that. There's going to be a few of them that's it's like this. They pack a large amount of damage and they'll fit their little niches, but it's not going to be quite as powerful as the ones that do require a backpack. It's kind of a balance decision. Don't get me wrong, these things pack a dang punch, and what I'm going to be showing in the next episode will be even crazier. These are just the most fun ones I found. So let me know what you guys think about it down in the comments. Hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next one.